I sat on the edge of infinity, and I gazed deep into eternity. Not a word was spoken, only the sound of my breathing, long and slow breaths, absorbing all the tranquility, a profound but resonating feeling. I have no idea how many lifetimes I was there, but when I stopped, I was here.
Well, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I am very good. How are you?
I'm delightful, thank you.
Glad to hear
So
it.
you got lots of stories to share with me today?
I think I do. Depends which ones want to come out. But yeah, a
That's right.
lot a lot
Yeah.
has been happening lately.
Well, I've not only heard like from you now, but I've also heard other through other grapevines that things really going on with you too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That you're just
interesting.
just exploding. So
Interesting. I didn't realize. I
but
mean, I realize
when I look
that
at you and
that's
all the people,
happening, but I didn't know if people were noticing. I do
but
that
I'm looking at
sometimes.
you now, and you know, all the pieces seem to be together, so you didn't blow up too
Right.
much. No.
I didn't blow up too much, did you say?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's been the theme. It's like integration.
You were sharing with me a little bit ago about something
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to do with the with the sun.
Mm-hmm. Being reconnected to something, a really
Yeah.
deep, ancient knowing of really like kind of it kind of is like what even happened here like in this reality and like what humans I guess have been lacking which is like kind of the key to everything is the way I'm seeing it. Um, but it's that connection with the sun,
Yeah.
which is like the life force energy. It's kind of like the source light in that
Yeah.
form. And then obviously we have like our internal pineal and and kind of like our internal sun as well. And there's supposed to be like a clear communication line between the sun, like the galactic center, and the inner mind, like um, the imagination, all of this. And that's
Well,
really supposed to be
w-
where we vision and then we're provided the resources and everything in the pathway for that vision instantaneously, basically.
and it's and it one of two things here that I want to talk about is bringing that up. There's two things, but one is that surrender to that, and surrender meaning trusting the fact that it will supply it to you, right? And it will, and it'll start manifesting, right?
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
that connection, I mean, there's a reason why it's one of your chakras is called solar plexus,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the sun in the middle.
Yeah. Also, the
We're all
soul.
connected to the sun, you know.
Yeah.
When we explore it, right?
Yeah. It's very central. It's like we have this focusing point inbuilt in reality that makes things easier. And I think some of that has got lost along the way. And a lot of that trust that we kind of have been taught or known to have to work at is just there. Like,
Yeah.
when I finally kind of made this connection recently, it was like, I could just feel it from like the light there, just instantly.
What does that feel like to you? So that
Mm,
people get an idea,
yeah.
what some of these feelings are.
It's like any question like that you have, like when you think of a vision that you have on your heart that you know you're supposed to do, it's like usually or before without that properly consciously connected up, it would sometimes feel a bit like questioning and like, oh, but how will I do that? But then it's like when you're making that connection and you spend each day um, enforcing that connection and it becomes clear and it becomes energized, you just feel the response. It's like in the body, like a warmth just here, like
Right.
respond. And you're like, it just feels like it's been heard. And yeah.
That's one of the things that I have noticed is that people have lost their trust in that completely, mostly. That there is something grander in you, for one, and about you. And number two, uh, when you ask, they say when you ask, you receive, but it's
Mm-hmm.
to trust that and not get consciously involved with the manifestation. And it happens quicker and quicker. You trust
Yeah.
that greater part of you. You trust the whole mechanism, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interestingly, something that I've seen is like, because I kind of work a little bit with like different sides. So, like, I will go to like the physical side and then the energetic side and things. But I had seen that like a lot of this stuff that actually blocks this and makes the process a bit harder and makes there be like a kind of delay has to do
Yeah.
with like the actual circuitry of the body that allows like the energetic current to flow really well. Um,
Right.
a lot of minerals are like depleted from like the soil and the body, um, and metal. So it's like really about replacing that, I find, or just like restoring that current. And I guess a lot of the ways that life is also designed can just make it so it's like that energy is not really flowing or getting the chance to flow correctly and fully through the body. But when that's there, it's like that mechanism that's naturally there becomes um, natural again
Yeah.
without effort.
I just want to take a moment here and express to people that that we will have a Q and A in a little bit, and then I'll put the chat screen up so we can see it
Yeah,
and see the
Q&A is
questions.
fun.
Yeah. What kind of advice would you give people that want to go down this discovery?
Yeah. So there was a first thing that kind of guided me in
Yeah.
this process recently, and I had this sudden realization um, that because resources were something I found quite difficult to get behind and like manifest, it was always like, oh, but not me or something like that, and I would always try and push through that, but it was quite inconsistent, and I just really started to get curious like what that was really about. And what I realized was that there is something um, about coming into this world, and especially when coming with a purpose, when you go through that forgetting, it's like easy to come in here um, when you're not remembering exactly your mission or what you came here to like gift to the world or that resonance. It's easy to get distracted by how the reality is, and I think a lot of us came in here with a gift like, oh, we can improve this, or as things expand, like they can go out of tuning, and it's like we weren't phased by that because when we know on that other side, like we just know who we are, we know the mission. So I think what I realized was myself and a lot of people um, get distracted and disheartened and kind of bittered by the way the world is, even though they actually have the solution to it in them. So there's
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And then from there, it's like, as it gets forgotten, you're just looking around like this. Oh my gosh, this is all wrong. But it's because you know what's right in here. But it's like you get distracted and you don't want to be, it's when you don't want to be a part of this world, is what I realized. And it's like you start to resist the current of life and it can't support you. And of course, resources can't support you. So that was like the key piece for me. Like, it was like, oh, and it kind of came through to me, like, as I was meditating with the sun, it was like divine will, like the will to be here, the will to exist, the will to flow life force current. So that was like the key piece. That's where it is at. It's like to be willing to be a part of the world, to be willing to be a part of things um, that you might not have thought to be, because it's like it needs people, these systems and things need people to be there, like with their hands in the clay and their blessings there.
Bashar says some things about this whole thing. He says, "You know heaven?" He says, "Yeah, you never left." So we're coming at it from a very weird approach, whereas we have to learn something, get something, put something in us, whatever,
Yeah.
get this, get that out there to get us right, so that we're
Mm.
in alignment. But the truth
Yeah.
is, you just have to let go. You are it, right? You are.
Yeah.
It's to trust this.
Like, yeah, like let go, like also open. Because I think
Yeah.
in the past, when if I would let go, I'd be like, okay, let go, like I'm going home. Like, goodbye, world, I don't like this place.
But
But it
yeah,
was like,
it is a different type of letting go, right?
yeah, like really, yeah.
What we're really letting go of is the left brain, because that's the programmed mind, right? And it
Right.
has all the things in it, like, you can't do this and you can do this, and if I do this twice, this will happen, and you keep all of it, right? And when you let that all go and say nothing equals nothing, and you come back to
0 point.
this place where you are immersed in infinity, right? You're immersed in it. But I'm just only trying to add on to what beautiful things you're saying. That's all.
Thank you.
So from what you're experiencing now, connecting with the great sun, or the sun, I remember a guy saying this one time. He says, you know, people men look in books for God, he says. But if you look in the morning, this great big ball of life-giving energy
Right.
crosses the sky every
Yeah.
day, and you don't even pay
It's like,
attention to it,
yeah.
right? And without it, you'd
It's
be dead.
literally there. Yes.
It's right there,
Mm. That's
right?
so natural. It's like inbuilt, like for like plants, like they're always turning towards the sun. It's the life force. And then also another thing I was hearing, like as in meditation with the sun, was like the law of divine provision. Like that's what it really is. It's not about attraction or like effort or like even a delay. It's more like there's an intention and then there's a provision, and it's just kind of like all there and it's all one. And it's kind of how it is with the cells in the body when it's functioning correctly. It's like a cell will
Yeah.
ask for something and it gets it. It doesn't have to go and like write it down or make affirmations like for 10 days in a row. Like it's just like it asks for what the resources it needs, it's coming through, and all of the cells get what they need. So I started to see that like in the world.
Yeah. And that's really the way it is.
Yeah, like the original design coming through.
Where we get mucked up is this frustration energy that we get for it not working and all of this. And we got to really, that if anything, that's what we got to let go and come back into the trust
Yeah.
that you are it. You're part, like what Aurelia is saying here. You're part of the sun. You're all of it. You're all of it and none of it at the same time.
Wherever you
Yeah.
decide to place your focus, you can really go there and experience as that. Like that's what I've been
Yeah.
doing lately. I've been like in the sun, like experiencing what it is to be the sun.
And you're a pretty light-skinned girl, aren't you?
I'm not sure how you mean
Well, I'm saying that for you to be out in the sun all the time.
that. I've got African in me.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then I won't say no more then.
But yeah, it's Scotland as well. We don't have like a lot of summer usually,
Yeah.
but it's still
So
powerful.
I want to ask you a question about this this other aspect you were bringing up. How much are you changing your state within you to match with the reality?
That's it. Yeah. So like what I'd really been doing was connecting with like that inner sun within, which it kind of was like in the pineal, but also in the solar. And it
Yeah.
was just like this merging and this like recharging and energizing, and that really reinforced it. And as each day, like I would just started to look forward to being here and like waking up and making that connection, it really enhances that connection.
Right. Yeah. Because I'm
And things I can access.
working in those areas of helping people get into the state that they need to get into
Yeah.
that matches with what it is they desire, right? To copy that state and bring that state, and that state brings it. But there's a whole other flow, and this is a higher flow that you're talking about, which is an absolute flow where you don't have to manifest and think about it at all, that you're in a state where everything just happens for you.
Receptivity. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like a state, a little bit of like, sometimes it's like contemplating. And it is a thinking, but it's a very relaxed thinking. It's very receptive thinking. And everything just kind of occurs.
Very relaxed thinking.
It's very enjoyable
So
kind of thinking.
what happened to the critic?
That is so cool that you say that. I can't remember if I even spoke to you about this or already or not, but
Well,
so
I know for this fact that you did something with your critic, otherwise you wouldn't
yes.
be sitting in La La Land. Like,
Yeah, because yeah, you're like all about that, like removing the inner critic, and mine was so loud, like all my life, I thought. And then recently, like it'll be a couple weeks ago now, I had this whole like upgrade experience. I went to like a new place and I was there for a few days, and I just went through this entire like upgrade and realized that I'm fully clairvoyant, clairaudient, all the clairs, everything like that. When I realized that, suddenly my inner critic wasn't there. It was just
you're
gone. My inner
gone.
critic wasn't there anymore. And I'm like, what?
So
I was looking for a little, and I'm like, oh, I want temp things, but it kind of
What
won't.
I'm thinking is you broke the threshold. Years ago, I put a video up about what the critic does. It creates a boundary between your
Boundary,
left
yeah.
brain and right. Uh, Anytime
Oh,
you start getting close to right brain, to God
yes.
consciousness, to all of that, then the critic really kicks in and tries to
Yeah,
knock you back.
yeah.
And when you get rid of the critic, you can flow right across. Now, you get rid of the critic and flow right across, so you can do what you did, which is you just flowed across and said that's it. And once you
Yeah.
got over there, the critic has no business there.
Yeah, it's just gone because it's like all that energy is being used fully. It's been full capacity. Because it's like if you don't use the full capacity, then that energy just has nowhere to go and it just gets bored and starts being like, and just being noise. And I
Now,
realized too, oh, sorry.
go ahead, dear.
I realized too that because of just the way that this world is, and it's like, oh, you have to do this and this and this and this kind of a job, and there's not really a place to have this kind of psychic ability. So it was like also a way to hide it was to just have noise in the head. So then I never realized that, oh, I'm clairaudient, like at all,
Yeah.
until yeah that moment.
Now, what kind of auditory information are you getting now from? Because I know when you
So it was
removed it,
always there.
what's that?
It was always there. I just
Yeah,
didn't realize it.
yeah, that's right. And a lot of people don't realize they got a critic going pop, 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 pop,
Yeah,
right?
hiding it.
Hiding it. But once you got rid of the critic's gone now.
Yeah.
Uh, what loving kind of information are you hearing now in your head?
It's just very clear. There's not confusion about it. Like if I want to know what to do, if I want to know where something is, I was doing this a lot without realizing though. Like if there's any lost things, if someone loses something, they'll ask me, and I'll be like, right, I'll find it. And I usually just ask out loud, and then I hear the answer. And I just
Yeah.
thought, oh, that's just me talking to myself. Like that's just, oh yeah, I didn't think about it until now. I'm like, oh yeah, and it's very clear. I don't have that doubt. I don't have this like it was sometimes like a jumpy feeling or dysregulated feeling in my heart a lot with all that noise. Now that's not there. It's like there's not that. I can just act and like be and like feel and hear it like just how it was actually intended, like originally here.
People listening to this talk, pay attention to Aurelia's voice and the tones she uses, because that's a true indicator of somebody who's gone somewhere. When you listen to her voice, it sounds different than other people's that you normally hear. With all this excitement and she's grounded it, and it's in her voice, it's in her being, right? Now, we want to think about that if we want to. Also, you can learn the information on how to do a thing,
Yeah.
but you really, really got to rub up against a teacher that has actually done it.
Yeah.
And then you hear and feel the integrity of that person, the tones of voice they use. Try to duplicate that in your own internal dialogue and notice what happens. All of a sudden, you'll go to those places, because if a thing can take you there using one set of words and tones, that thing can also take you back or take you somewhere else, right? If you know what I mean. Like, like say, uh, each night before any mammal falls asleep, they take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. And that's hardwired in the system. So it stands to reason that if you just take a deep breath and slowly exhale, that you will have a better time falling asleep. It's a pattern, right?
Yeah.
Now, there are certain patterns and I'm getting way off on a football field here, but
Go
I'm
for
going.
it.
But the patterns that you will pick up when you go to these dimensions and levels will be will be indicated in the voice tones because that's your harmonic.
Yeah.
So you are all language is actually a singing that goes on, all
Yeah.
talking. And so right now, pay attention to Aurelia's talking because when you lose yourself in her words, you will accidentally go to where she's going.
It's happened a lot with our conversations.
Ours, yes, I right to the neither world, and I my eyes drooling. Yeah, because it takes me right out of all sorts of any kind of left brain activity, and I'm just right there in the
Yeah.
right. But
Coherence.
there's something else. There's beyond right doings and wrongdoings. There's a field. I'll meet
Yeah.
you there. You and I end up in a field all the time. And it's
Yeah.
a nice field. It's got more than dandelions. It's a really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the wordless field, but full of harmonics that are felt.
Yes. Is there anything else you'd like to share about your
Tesla is
journey?
alone in his lab, surrounded by
Oh,
half-finished.
did some audio
Sorry.
just come through? Oh, that was your. I thought, where did that
Well,
come
there's
from?
people messaging me all over the place. I'm trying to get them the link and everything else.
Yeah. Is there anything else I'd like to share?
Yeah.
Yeah. Recently, it's just like all of the kind of, I don't even know what to call them, honestly. But like all of these abilities, like the abilities that are natural to a human being, like by design, that we just don't know about, and this society just doesn't necessarily yet, although it's changing, like have a specific use for, or at least not in the mainstream. It's like not recognized yet, but really
Yeah.
just been tapping into a lot of that, and realizing too that that we're all telepathic as well. It's just I've been experiencing that with more and more people now, and they've been receiving like clear signals, and like with my clients, like I used to do guided meditation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I no longer do that now. I
No?
just kind of emit the images, and as I'm receiving them, and the clients receiving them too, and will tell me all about it without me saying a word. All kinds of people too, like from all walks of life. It's
Well,
cool.
there was a set of books that I read one time, The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. And in those books, they described these guys that could do that. And I've done it myself. I know what it's like to send a projection and
Yeah.
everybody else see it. And my own experience with that was that I was getting a teasing from some of my friends about being spiritual and all of this and what are you going to do with it and all of that and la la la. And anyway, they got me kind of geared up there with
Yeah.
all of their things they were doing. And I says, well, if this spirituality is so stupid, then why did the floor just turn to water? And that's all I had. And they screamed and jumped on the test. The floor was doing this. So in these books, they talk about this. Right? That's how come I was practicing it. But they
Yeah.
they they were talking about these things, and these young as they're called, they would put a orange seed in the ground, put their hand over it, and an orange tree would grow up between their fingers, and then in a few minutes it had fruit, and you could pick it. And this whole thing was a hallucination.
Oh
This
wow.
whole thing was a projection that you can get so good at
That's
that projection.
yeah. There's like the creator. It's like the stage before just creating from nothing to be
When
able
I'm
to
really
project that.
when I'm really connected with my client in the session, People ask me, well, how can you do that online? Why not do it in person?
Face.
And I go, it doesn't matter where we are, because that space that's created, that field, happens between you and I, and we're how many thousands of miles apart. I'm in
Yeah.
Canada, you're in Ireland, right?
Scotland.
Scotland, sorry.
Yeah.
Scotland, right? But yet we could sit here and we create a space
Sure.
between. We actually, instead of the distance, it loops over and it's right here now.
Yeah.
Like they talk about time traveling or space traveling.
Yeah. Quantum
And
field.
you do that with your clients. You create a
Yeah.
room that goes all around them. I remember one time with a client of mine, and I had a little trouble with her because there was something going on that was a bit of an attachment or something to, and I just motioned to the floor and I drew a line as she was walking up into my
Yeah.
office, and I said, this is my game, my rules, and when you cross this line, you're playing my game in my right. So the commitment had to happen to step across the line in order to get in any farther.
Yeah.
But they stood there at that line and busted out crying and everything else. And what I said didn't have any hurtful in it for a human being, but for an entity, it sure did.
Wow.
And then eventually they left, and eventually they came back, and then they decided to cross the line and then come in. But you can set these things up. Not that you need to
Yes.
set
It's like a
anything
filter. Oh yeah, I've been dealing with some of this in a couple
But
people.
you could set up this. You could set up this field
Yeah.
with your clients that only you are only in the room, right? And it's
Yeah.
amazing, like that they'll have a cat jumping around and doing all this, and all of a sudden it gets really calm and just lays down,
Yeah.
right? While we're in this energy, because it works.
Yeah. The cats love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like this field, it really can uproot anything that was hiding out. It makes things very, very clear.
Yeah. So this is the time, isn't it? It's the time for us to now. You see the way the world's going and what it's doing. And this is the time to step into this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Experience your higher dimensional self.
Yeah.
The part of you that was never allowed to express itself on this planet.
Yeah.
The reason why people have depression and anxiety and all of these things is because they're unexpressed.
Yeah. It's like
That's
they're
who
not
they-
fully here
That's right.
and still operating from that not wanting to be here, not wanting to be part of it, which keeps us locked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is
it keeps
time.
us locked out.
Full
I'm just
express.
going to switch to the Q&A view. I don't know what that's going to do with us here. Oh, there we go. Got closer. So I just set up the Q&A here. So if you want to go into the chat and leave your question,
Yeah.
we will answer it. So I see that there's at least 7 people on, so somebody may ask a
Nice.
question. Yeah. And
I recognize a couple people.
do you?
Yeah. From earlier.
So and again, for those of you listening, there's this disassociated hypertalk. And if you notice when Aurelia and I talk, it's not that. right? And we step into that sacred space when we talk. So there's times when you'll see us just go quiet and just because there's lots of telepathic communication going on, right? Um, you know, it really is the real deal. And when you come to see her, you're going to experience some things, and they may not be uh, just ordinary going to the grocery store kind of things. You're going to experience some
Yeah.
delightful feelings that are you, right? Yeah. Well, we
So
have a
great. Oh,
question here.
I have noticed a lot more people are tuning into their telepathic abilities. Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's part of our evolution right now. We're getting a lot of pressure in our society right now because that pops us out into we either e- experience more of our abilities and go higher, or we can stay with the others that had chosen a different path. Maybe even know what if that's all of it or not. But what I do know is that this is evolution time. This is resurrection time. Time to
Yeah,
resurrect.
resurrection. That word has really been with me a lot lately.
Yeah.
Because it's like how we were always intended to be.
I never heard it called hyper talk, but that is the truth.
Yeah.
So it's not. Uh, I think that's is that Jean. Jean. How do you say that name?
Looks like Genoa to me.
Genoa.
I
At
think.
any rate, sorry for mispronouncing, but you can really tell with people uh, where they're at, what they've learned. Basically, it is the sound of wisdom. When you hear Aurelia talking deeply, peacefully, I mean, just listening to her, you just drift in. And there's a reason for that. That's because she is that state. Inside you, you desire that state for yourself. So then you float into that state, right?
Yeah. People
I'm looking.
recognize like when it's like their true core resonance. It's like finally they get to put down like all of that pressure because I've experienced it myself. Like sometimes in certain spaces when everyone's all like crazy like that, like to kind of mirror that back. But there's only so much of that I could do.
Hmm.
I'd often just be quiet.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, how does the feeling of telepathy telepathy manifest for you both? I'm going to say from my perspective, and remember, this doesn't have to be just because it is for me or it is for really, it doesn't mean it has to be for everybody. They can find their own thing because there's as many
Yeah.
there's as many techniques as there are people.
Yeah.
Aurelia, I've been with her for a long time. I know a lot of things about her, and she tested out different things along the way, but each one evolved her and kept evolving and evolving her. So one thing might not be right for the moment, let it go and look for another evolutionary thing, but it's going to be something that clicks and resonates with you, right? And it's going to be kind of your own thing, right? So when when I'm saying this, I'm saying it in the sense that when Aurelia and I have this telepathic communication, it's a feeling that comes over us as we look at each other. There's a feeling that comes over us, a stillness, a quietness, and then all of a sudden, the quieter we get, the more the transfer of information. What do you think, Aurelia? Is that
Yeah, it feels like I feel it as like a kind of shift, and then the words go away, and then it's like traveling like up, and then it's just so funny. Like if you try and find words, it just makes you laugh, and then so much is being said and seen at the same time, and like remembered as well.
the feeling? The feeling is kind of like if you were to step into silence, but a peaceful silence. It's like, ooh, right? Now, one thing that I did, and I don't know if Aurelia did this, but years ago, what I did was I realized if I wanted to be telepathic or psychic or whatever, that I could only do it so far, and then it was kind of like it was stopped. So, in examining that, I decided to open up and let everyone see all of my dirty laundry. You know what I mean? Like you could psychically block that, but I let it go and let everybody see it. So I became completely open for people to see everything about me.
Yeah, because it works
And
both ways. It's the only way you
and
can
in,
access that state is to be
right,
completely like open. Yeah.
yeah.
I've actually always been someone who, like, just, I think it was just naturally there, so I just always naturally assumed that everyone knew everything I was thinking all
Yeah.
the time. And that's just how I live. I just assume that everyone just knows.
So
So,
this openness that you're feeling with Aurelia is part of it as well. That she's open to you, and in that openness, you feel that, and then you feel like you could be open too, and share a
yeah.
little, right? But it's happening on a psychic level. And if you guys, there's a little trick. If you guys have ever experienced something where you've bumped into somebody along your journey and there's a lot of head talk going on, because that is telepathic communication. It's on a different level though. And you know how you get argumentative and you're arguing with this person in your mind and you're practicing arguing? This is really happening on another level. And the trick to that is to go behind your right ear. Imagine your hand is a door. Think of that person and close the door. Then it gets silent in your mind because you've closed the door to that psychic, uh,
Yeah, the psychic link or
unhealthy
pathway.
conversation, right?
Yeah, this was how I opened up my clairaudience. Not exactly that process, but it was like realizing I suddenly became aware of all of those pathways and links, and I realized I could see suddenly where they were coming from, whose thoughts they were, and I'm like, oh, that's not my voice, right? Sometimes it was just radio signals and things just like floating around in the field, and I'm like, oh, tune that out, and then suddenly it's like, oh, inner critic's gone, things are clear. Oh, I love that, the sunshine analogy.
When I was a younger wizard and I was on a trip up north to a work camp, we our journey got interrupted by beings from another place. In fact, they came with a light behind the car, and all of a sudden we were gone. And we went to their place, wherever that was. And this is eyes wide open, not on hallucinating drugs or nothing. This is just driving down the road. And when we got there, those beings would look at us in complete love, tilt their head, and they sent a beam of love from their heart to us that turned into words. So I just wanted to kind of share with Faye there that this is what happened to me to kind of get onto telepathic communication. But they just simply would tilt their head, and I don't know what the hell head tilt's about, but they tilt their head and they'd
I
look
do
at you.
that.
Yeah. And
We
it
were from the
seems
same
like
place.
I've got a picture of me as a little boy, and that's what I did in the camera at school. The school picture was I tilted my head and I sent this out, so it made me understand that I also probably was skipping around with the aliens long before I got abducted later on, because I knew the hello. Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly what it is, and it sounds like you're also tapping into something else that happened to me as well on this part. My mind that brings a sudden wordless knowing.
Yeah, that's really it.
That's that. Some people call that the unified field.
Yeah.
Some people, I call it just moving from the left to the right part of your mind. When you move to the right, boom, it's silent, and then there's this knowing you can know all things, and yes, you can,
Yeah.
because it's illegal to keep information from you. You can just go to this level and know things,
Yeah.
right?
I want to call it
And
full
you've had a lot of
coherence.
experience with that, haven't you? Really?
Yeah.
Just knowing.
Oh yeah. That was one I did know I had. Well, it can be called like claircognizance. But I feel that what I'm seeing is that we actually all have access to all of these. It's just not knowing because it's not so practiced or not so much shown like a specific use for until you're in like this kind of field, and then yeah,
We're getting
it's more clear.
quite a downpour right now here, so it's loud. I don't know if you hear it or not.
Not too much. It is.
No.
loud.
Anybody else have questions? We'll see them pop up if they do.
Yeah. Another thing that I've had like since like the inner critic going away and everything has been kind of, so for a while I would speak I guess like the language of the soul, can also be called light language, that is like kind of my own like native language I see it as, and I did that for a while, and also music, and these things would be often like, you could call it channeling or whatever you may call it, but then since this I've actually had like a lot more kind of energies like start to express through me, like just other parts of this self, like in completely different forms
Yeah.
and dimensions, and it just feels so natural too. Like I used to be slightly afraid, and I used to be afraid to hear things without realizing that that was happening the whole time.
Yeah, yeah. The further along we go, the more we trust ourselves, the more we trust ourselves, the more we open up and expand.
Yeah, and then there's no going back.
But when you get into that level where you're at right now, with your tone, with your resonance inside earlier, then when you're in that vibration, you evolve very quickly.
Yeah, it's like a very
And
fast, direct
because
path.
it's, I don't know if you'd call it an old soul vibration or what, but you've always been here. You've never been born. You never died. You know, it's just
Yeah, I kind of feel old and new at the same time. Like I actually had
yeah.
a walk-in experience in 2020. So like a whole it's kind of like the whole oversoul like as me like just came in and that part that was the previous soul kind of went off away on its own journey. So that's been interesting. And since then I would say I feel kind of yeah, both young and new but ancient at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I'm ancient and I'm young, so I get that all the time. Oh man, sometimes I'm more younger than what my body knows it is. Yeah. I'll take off and go to do something. I go realize, oh, maybe I should slow down a bit. No, but yeah, I mean, this is just every day. This will be everyday thing for people. Uh, Again, we've been confined in a box for a very long time. This box of limitation, and we're all beginning to explore what's on the outside of the box. And then we begin to realize all the magic and miracles were always on the outside of the box. And I'm talking about the social box where you fit
Yeah.
into the world. And you pop out of that, and then magic and miracles are like commonplace.
Yeah.
Your abilities are common. The only place they're not common is in this tiny little box in this great big universe of freedom. And this little box that we're all trying to fit into, and
Yeah.
have, have the car like Joe over there, or have the house, or have the whatever, have doesn't make any difference, because once
Yeah.
you step out of here, it's all yours.
Yeah.
And if you truly from your heart desired it, it would show up tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. It's like, what do I truly desire? Because it can be so
Well,
unique.
that becomes the conundrum, doesn't it? What do
Yeah.
I choose to focus on and put all my attention on? And sometimes that upgrades quite a bit. I'm starting to realize that it's got to do with internal states that I want to manifest, because the state manifests the thing anyway. So if I
Yeah.
could, and that's easier for me to manifest the state that I need to be in.
Yeah. Gives you the
Right.
capacity to
So
think of
the feeling
anything.
I would have if I already had it, I mean, we're all hearing that. So you go into that feeling and you get that. But what I'm evolving into more and more all the time is states of being that are all encompassing.
Mm.
If I get into a state of being where everything turns out all the time right and perfect and beautiful, well, I'd like to be in that state. Actually, I mean,
Yeah.
it's nice to have the state where you get $70 million. Sure, that's great. But then you're still going to be sitting there with $70 million, going, now what do I do? Right. So the evolution continues, right? Of this evolution of evolving into higher and higher states of being.
Yeah. A lot of
Now,
it for
I
me
don't
has
know.
been
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, a lot of it for me has been accessing like this level of magic. It's like been the first thing, and before I kind of would look around and hear a few people talking about things that like you're supposed to want, and it would not be working for me, and I'd get frustrated until like now I'm like, oh, this level was available. Like that's it's like my soul knew that was what I cared about first.
Right.
So, yeah, start there. Because if you have all of this, like, connection, and it's like, yeah, as you were saying, it's like then you have access to everything else as well.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of like it started out, there was an old movie, right? Where there was a wizard and a young fella coming into wizardry. And the old fella puts up his hand and he said, which finger holds the power? And one of the people picked this finger here,
Mhm.
right? And the bottom line is that the wizard said, "Don't ever pick my finger again. Pick your own." Right? And it's true. We have this idea that everybody else out there is more grander than we are, or
Oh
whatever.
gosh. Yeah.
But it is this journey and your connection and your relationship with your own goddess within, God within, and you manifesting the great sun, the change, the transformation that can happen. This is your own spiritual journey that you have with yourself. People like myself, people like Aurelia come into your life and you share some time. You rub up against them for a while and learn about their reality and how they're playing it. Learn about the character of the person. I remember one time I was studying Dr. Milton Erickson, and I found it was better for me to study his personality than it was all the techniques and things.
Yeah.
Once I learned his personality, I could get it. I could be just as silly as he was, right? And those patterns transferred.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That harmonic resonance again.
Yes. I don't see any new questions. So, and we're up to our hours, so I guess that went quick, eh?
Yeah.
Just like a flick.
Elapsing time. Yeah.
I don't know how much longer this thing will let me stay on in one. That it won't. That was the bad part of doing it over this instead of Zoom.
It's cool.
Is there anything you want to leave people with?
If there's time, could I share some sound? I'm feeling like
Yes.
I'm quite a being of sound, so feeling called. This happens now, like sometimes I just feel like my crystal grails and stuff just like calling, like, play me. Like, okay. And I'm just going to share a few words from the language of my soul. This, I feel, is a language where it's almost like telepathy spoken out loud. This is what I used to use before becoming comfortable to actually share telepathy with people, because it was always there, but it can feel just very intimate. So sometimes you just have to like learn to become comfortable with it and
Yeah.
be comfortable with the silence. But this was always a good way to connect to that essence. Before that, really connects me to a very like ancient place and also a timeless place.
Yeah.
Unara ke utana una karakua se uma ne ura kana kaya arakuna karakai na hea na kai ea suma he narua ea kai ia sunara he ia nai he wake.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I feel all dizzy now. Yep.
But yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, dear. It's always a pleasure. We'll do it again. This seemed to go so quick. I guess that's the downfall of stepping into the timeless, eh?
You get a lot done though.
That's right. Yeah, you do. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll go. Blessings. Thank you so much
Blessings.
for sharing. And I keep looking at the time because I'm confused. It only felt like half an hour. Yeah.
Time travel.
That's right. Yeah. Uh, anything else you want to share with people? Upcoming events, how they can, you know?
Ooh, well, I have one upcoming event on is it September. Oh gosh, September the 24th. So I think it's a month away. On
Okay.
a podcast called Wisdom from the North. So I'm going to be on there. Yeah.
Good.
I think it'll be out maybe I don't know if it's like the day after or the week after. So yeah, that's coming up.
Yeah.
I think that's the main stuff.
Good. And then people can see you in person, like they not in person, but they can see you and book appointments with you, or
Yeah, I have a website called aurelialighttemple.com.
AureliaLightTemple.com.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So
I
the
have
next
some
time,
more stuff brewing. Like
the
some more
next time
teaching
we
sessions.
the next time we do this, I'm going to have a little header with your website on it. So I'm just learning
Oh,
this.
thank you. Yeah.
I mean, I practice with it a lot, but I'm learning in real time now. So they can see you in person. They can have sessions with you, and you do in the session whatever vibrationally you feel is the right thing for them.
Yeah, that's been
Yeah.
how it's been going.
That's how I work too. It's like
Mhm.
I have no idea when they walk in. I don't have any idea on the second session when they walk in,
Yeah.
because it's all about vibration now and where do you want to go.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I offer personal sessions. I'm doing these 4-week group programs. And I also have my hypnotherapy program, which is called Trance Alchemy, my hypnotherapy program that runs all the time. So you just join in and we go, right?
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when do you want to do this again?
Oh, we could do it soon.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you and blessings.
Thank you too.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Catch everyone soon.
Bye bye.